So a little explanation of what went wrong in that video. Pretty much everything. So, you're out here by yourself. You don't want to ask people for help and fun things like that. So what I was doing is I needed the frame to be up in the air so that I could get the frame high enough to mount this motor. And the 4-link just has a couple bolts running through it, but I needed to move the 4-link suspension where I think it was mounted right here because I needed to start on these mounts. And what I did is I popped a couple bolts out, and it was basically a balancing act. I had it sitting on a sawhorse in the back here, and the axle was just dangling in the air. And just enough hammering, that piece of metal fell and knocked the 4-link out. I don't know exactly what happened, but as you see, I didn't skip a beat. No cuss words, no nothing. I just went back to hammering. But needless to say, the important thing was that the Tesla motor still did not fall. And that was the only thing I was really concerned about. Everything else is just metal and it's not going to break. But that motor is held on by like a strap on a Harbor Freight transmission jack, and it is not steady in any way, shape, or form. So I was just happy to see that it was upright and not falling on the floor. So here is what I'm looking for in my motor mount. If you look at this, the cross brace goes all the way across here. I'll fill in the holes on the end. What I like about that is I can also mount my 4-link triangulation to the bottom of that, a little bit low, maybe the front of it. Just depends on where the setup comes in at, but either way I can mount my 4-link triangulation to that mount because it is definitely strong enough to do that. So I will eventually weld this all up, but right now all I'm doing is just tacking everything in place. That way I don't have to worry about being able to take it apart to make some adjustments. With this being an electric vehicle, the most important part is going to be keeping this protected from sticks and debris coming up through here. So my thought process on this whole setup is to get this very close to where the bottom of the motor is, and then I can box everything in with basically a skid plate. I can come down a little bit and then back. And that way, I don't have to worry about sticks flying up and grabbing those orange wires, which would totally screw things up. So what I need to do now, I'm going to take these off to get them out of the way. And then I want to fabricate another bar across the back here so that I can basically do the same thing that I did with the front. And that only leaves this one, which I will be able to put some kind of a stringer from this side to this side to mount that one. All right, so like I said before, I want to be able to take these motor mount brackets off, like these are bolted on. So I can just drop this whole cradle down. So before I make the cross brace apart, I took 2/4 inch pieces of steel. I welded them together so I could get the holes lined up. And one is going to be welded on there for a little extra strength, and the other one is going to be what's welded to my cross brace. And so I drilled holes in the frame here. These little weld bung 1/2-inch bolts, so those slide right in there. And then I'm going to pull these plates apart real quick, and I'm going to drill out the back plate to fit around that so I can put it to it and then weld around it. And so she will be permanent there, and then I'll be able to bolt this plate on and off. So now I have the plate with all the bungs welded in, some epoxy primer, now I'm going to weld that plate to there. And then this will be welded to the cross brace that will go across here. So I will be able to bolt that on, and I will be able to remove the cross brace whenever I need to. After drilling all these holes, the one thing I can tell you for sure is that I need a drill press. So that is going to happen soon. So these are, I believe, 1-inch holes that I had to drill in here. So we will tack these in and then weld around each individual hole. So that will then be welded, the plate will be welded to the frame. This. And the cross member will go across here. One will be on the other side, but I don't want to burn any drills up, so we're gonna go ahead and wait for that drill press. Now I realize this isn't going to do everything I need, but it's so nice to have a drill. I just picked this up from my in-laws. It's a little drill mill, and at least I can have something to hold on to the steel while I'm actually doing the holes. Man, my arms were so sore the other day. And there we are. So, still have to make the mount for the motor back here. I'm gonna make that one taller, that's up front. Not happy with the height, I think I can go up a little bit. And then once I get those two heights set, then I'll know the good height for this one right here. And I can run either a removable bar in between there, or just make it permanent, because it would be easy to just drop this out as a unit. All I have to do is take the 8 bolts out up front, the 6 bolts out on the back, and the entire cradle will just drop down, just like kind of like it does in a Tesla, I guess. So just want to kind of give you a view from all angles. I believe this is about 3/16 steel, what I use. So it's pretty thick and very rigid. So the good thing is like I said, I want to mount my 4-link under here, so I will be able to truly triangulate it instead of putting it on the frame rails. So it kind of serves two purposes. So that took a little bit longer than what I thought. I was hoping to have a video out prior to this, but it was kind of a busy week of work, and so I had to take some time off the project. And also, with my minimal fabrication skills, I could venture to say that things take me a little bit longer than they would somebody who does this every day. So I'm happy currently with what we're looking at. I will say that it's probably a little bit higher than what I originally thought I was going to be, and hopefully that ends up being okay, just because I can always put, when I did my measurements, I had no rubber bushings on the body, so I didn't have the body mounts on. So I think that it's going to be up another 3/4 of an inch, so it should be well within the tunnel of the Jeep, but I just want to definitely refit it to make sure it's going to be where I want it to be. But here's where we're at. So that is looking from the front. Yeah, there's a gap in that mount. I still got to bend that down and go ahead and do some welding. Everything is just currently tacked into place, but I'm liking how this is going to be just one big engine cradle, and I will be able to put a protective plate on the bottom for when I'm doing Jeep things, that I don't have any sticks flying up and pulling out any wires or something like that. And I am going to venture to say that my goal for today is to get this thing sitting back on its wheels, which I have not even started the truss work on that, so it may be a far-fetched idea, but I would love to be able to roll this thing out. I got a couple other things I need to work on this week, but that would be the ultimate goal.